Welcome, listeners, to Off Over 50 and Fired. Now what with Linda
and Shelley.
So last episode, we had our first and only Quad Peak guest, Susie, who gave us 8 steps for independent consulting. And she talked about getting started and then setting all the way through to setting up to your next engagement. In this episode, we're going to chat about our experience and how we've been dabbling in the consulting space. And we're going to leave you with some key principles on consulting.
Cool. Okay, but before we begin, Len, let's start, as always, with our wine recommendation. For this episode, it's Maomi, a nice Pinot Noir. It has cherry, berry, and vanilla taste, and I did that for you.
Yeah,
Linda.
Where on the internet did you get that one, Shelley?
I looked at the back of the label, Linda.
Is it full-bodied or medium-bodied?
It's a medium-bodied wine.
All right, everyone.
Cheers.
So, Shelley, let's get to it. First of all, we should tell our listeners that we've started a consulting business called Silver Linings Consultancy, which focuses on leveraging our business experience, which is over 45 plus years. I don't really want to give away our age exactly.
Yeah, but it's important. We have a lot of experience. And get the old point around silver, right? Because we're over 50.
Yes.
I'm going to be honest. I really thought it was going to be hard to do, Linda, but I was pleasantly surprised to set it up.
Yeah, it wasn't actually that bad. I was a little scared too, especially about the contracting part and some of the legal pieces. But really, it hasn't been to the point where you're so overwhelmed that you just give up. Definitely not. It's not that hard. And actually, Shelley and I, some clients we share together, and others we have on our own. And actually, Shelley was the first to dabble on the corporate side. So, what was your experience on that first corporate experience?
Well, Linda, you know what? It was kind of mixed bag. I enjoyed all the projects. It was really cool, but what I didn't really appreciate was the fact that you don't get completely involved. You're kind of like on the fringes, and I don't like being on the fringes. I'm so used to, and I think we're both used to, being in the middle of everything. So trying to manage my own expectations around I'm not going to be in every meeting. I have to get over myself, and that I am a consultant, and I'm always going to be sort of an outsider.
Yeah, so that's the one thing about being a consultant and being a little bit of an outsider, and you have to have a little bit of a thick skin. Like, you have to understand that it's not going to be about you, and you're not part of that team. You're there to help and assist in the way that they want you to help and assist, and you kind of have to adjust to that. So, Shelley, as you remember, a few times I did have to pick you up off the floor.
Yes, you did.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a little devastating to me. I'm not used to not being the center of attention, as we talked about, or driving the stuff and really leading the organizational structure and things like that. So, it was hard for me.
So you have to just remember that sometimes you're not going to be the center. You have a specific job, and you're going to execute that job, and you really can't take it personally.
Right. So I have to get over myself, Linda? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Yeah. You're right. And it does get easier over time. You're absolutely right, but you just have to get used to that fact. And I know, in the corporate world, everything was very structured, and a lot of good organizational thing. I think with you, Linda, you kind of had a little bit of a different experience, right?
I did, because my first experience actually was with a nonprofit, and it was very different. So that structure wasn't exactly there. So that allowed for more creativity in the project and the way that I was actually involved in the project. So typically with a nonprofit, they're kind of at bare bones. And when they bring somebody in, it's really to fill a very, a function almost. So when you come into that kind of situation, you have a little more freedom to be able to kind of decide what you're going to give them as part of your consulting work product. And you have to make some decisions. Are you going to just give them exactly back what they think they're going to get, or are you kind of step back, see what's kind of missing in the organization, how you can maybe fill in some of those gaps that they don't even know that are missing?
Yeah, you're kind of more like the visionary and really truly the leader from that perspective, because they're looking for your guidance.
Exactly. You're able to drive a little bit more. So it's a different situation than you were in, where you were kind of waiting. You had to wait for your orders. Here, you can go in, you can kind of talk to them, let them see that there are other ways of kind of addressing or creating the work product versus what they had in mind.
Right, so if you're a control freak like me, maybe you would think a little bit more about the idea of doing some more not-for-profit work.
Non-for-profit, but also where you find sort of that flexibility is not just non-for-profit, but when you look at startups also have that sort of loose structure, and they're looking for people for experience and guidance and to be the driver, because sometimes they don't know. They've just gotten started in the business. They know their little niche. They don't know how it works within a larger organization. So startups, nonprofits, smaller businesses.
Yeah. Or if you go into a completely different industry and say they've never done that type of stuff, before, they want to bring something to life and they really need to bring somebody in from the outside, that's when you can also exercise a little bit more control if you're a control freak.
That's right. So, there is this whole idea about maybe there is a right fit client for your kind of type of consulting and sort of your personality. And you might want to think about that, because there's a lot of different companies out there. Don't get thinking that you have to have a corporate client.
I think it's a great idea. All right, so why don't we talk about those principles for consulting? The very first one is about experiment. Give yourself the time to dabble and give yourself a chance, because it's really important. Linda had to come back and pull me up a couple times because I was a little depressed about the way things were going. But, you just got to give yourself a chance. The second one is leverage your connections. And we learned that from Joanna when she was on, talking about her consultancy projects. And it's really about take advantage of those people, because somebody out there can connect you with somebody else to find those projects.
So number 3 is promote your experience. I think a lot of people at our age, especially when you're over 50, are a little gun shy about your age. But with that age comes a lot of experience that you can give others. And so you need to kind of make sure that they understand the wealth of information and knowledge that you have. Number 4 is don't get nervous. Like Shelley previously talked about that, she was a little apprehensive about getting into consulting, but I told her there's so much information now. There's so much on the internet. There's so many tools out there to help you set up your LLC, set up the bank accounts, everything from even helping you with your quarterly submissions of your taxes. So you can kind of take it easy and don't feel overwhelmed. Take one thing one step at a time.
Yeah, baby steps. But to your point, it was really nice. You eased my mind when you said, look, Shelley, you just click on this and here comes stuff. And it made me feel, a lot more secure about the potential of setting it up.
And that's one thing. Go back to your network, because there are people out there that have done it already. So take advantage of their experience and go back into your network.
That's right. You're right. And everybody's always willing to help, right?
Exactly.
So number 5 is have a wow factor. With your initial clients, you really just want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and that you're making a great impression. And that because the reason why you want to do that is because you're hoping that you can get some repeat business or recommendations will come as well. So you want to make sure you're putting all your work experience in there to develop your great reputation and, be able to leverage it further. Number 6 is just making sure that you don't overcommit and underdeliver, because that would be a really bad thing, right? You want to make sure that whatever you're saying you're going to deliver in the project, you do. And you do it with, a lot of passion.
And then last but not least, number 7, organization is king. Really make sure that you stay on top of everything. Don't let things slide. Make sure things are on calendars, that you have, timesheets, that you have all of the tools that you need to make sure that you don't overlook anything, either from a financial perspective or from a client perspective. Especially if you're going to be juggling like different projects, you have to make sure that you keep them all straight and that you have your own mechanism to keep yourself organized.
It's important.
It is. So those are our 7 principles to consider for consulting, which are different than what Susie had done. Susie walked you through how to start an engagement and end an engagement with a client. This is just overall what principles you should consider in consulting in general. And so hopefully our listeners know by now that all of these principles and key steps and all the resources that we've been talking about, the links to different websites and all of the information that we discuss on the podcast is actually on our website, www.over50andfired.com, and it's under our section Off Toolkit.
And Linda, don't forget, we also have all our lovely, wonderful wine recommendations there as well.
They're all there. They're all listed by episode. Thanks for listening. Bye.